All right, so I'm going to quickly go over how I solved assignment 11. Now, note that for this assignment, the bulk of the work is trying to like parse through that data file and figure out how to add the information up. There's lots of different ways that you could have done that. I'm going to just show you a way that I chose to do it, but that's by no means the only way, and there's, lots of different ways you could have done it. So this is a two-part assignment. So the first part that I'm going to cover in this video is creating the Flask web service. Okay. So in order to create Flask, I'm going to do what I always do. I'm going to go to my directory here. Fall. All right, I'm going to create a new directory for this assignment. All right. Okay, so all right, so we're here in assignment 11. All right, I'm going to go ahead and create my virtual environment. Okay, and if you don't know what that is, refer to some of my previous videos. It's just, again, a way to create a Python that's specific to just this directory. So if I want to install stuff and not have it affect other things, then I can do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and activate this virtual environment. All right, I've now done that, and I'm going to install Flask. Okay, so there we go. So Flask is now installed. Okay, so now now that I have Flask installed, I can go ahead and create my very simple Flask application. Okay, and so we know that the first thing that we need to do is we need to import. Oops. Okay, so we need to from Flask import Flask. Okay. And then we know that we need to have an app, so we'll do Flask. Okay, and I can put in whatever I want in here. My Flask app, doesn't matter. Okay, and then we know we need to have these at app.routes. Okay, and this assignment specifies exactly what the routes are, so we can take a lot of the guesswork. So we're going to have a year, a core, and a specific year core. Okay, so we may as well just go ahead and stick those in now while we're thinking about it. So we'll have a /year. All right, let's see. I guess it goes, it's like that. Okay. So it'll be year / and then year. Okay. And then after that, we need to like make up a function definition, right? So we can do something like def data by year. Okay, and it needs to accept this year argument. All right. And we'll go ahead and fill that in a second. All right. But let's go ahead and set up the other app routes. Okay, so we have core and core like this. Okay, so we'll do data by core. Okay, and then we'll have core like this. Right, we need to fill that one in, and then we'll go ahead and have app route. It's called specific, and then let's see, we need to do year and then core. So we'll do year / core like this. Okay. All right, and so then we'll have, I don't know, we'll call this specific data or something like that. So we'll have year and core. All right, so that's kind of like the skeleton that we need to make our Flask app. Okay, but now we need to actually make it do something. Okay, and so you'll recall in this assignment we have this horse kick data set. So let me actually go, I'm going to open up a new window here. I need to go find the horse kick data set and move it somewhere where I can use it. I think I've got it in the previous semester. Oh, here we go. Assignment 11. All right, so here's this Prussian.csv. So let me go ahead and copy this file over to my fall assignment 11 directory. Okay, and now let me go back into here. All right, so here is the Prussian data set, right? So we have kind of like these labels here on this first row. This tells us all of the different core names. There's one called GC, and then there's core like C1, and it doesn't look like all the numbers are included. Like there's no C12 or C13. So So we'll need to keep that in mind. And then we have, going down here, is we have the years. So 1875 through 1894. So we can basically see, like, in 1875, there were a total of only 3 people killed by horse kicks. Okay, and most of the companies didn't have anybody. Just 3 out of however many companies there are did. Okay, so we need to actually parse this data and put it into some kind of data structure so that when we ask these questions, like when we ask /year, okay, like, so if I asked for /1875, then it should return, a JSON. If we go to this example here, okay, year 1875 needs to return a JSON for C7 is 1, C8 is 1, and C14 is 1. And there's a little wrinkle where we have to then add up all those numbers, okay? So we need some things to go ahead and do this, okay? But so I guess the first thing that we'll do is let's go ahead and just parse through this Prussian horse kick data set, okay? So we should know how to kind of at least open up a text file by now. And, because I think what we'll do is let's go ahead and, before we actually do all these app.routes, we'll go ahead and do all of our parsing before we even mess around with any of this Flask stuff. So that it's all done once when you first run the program, and we don't have to do it each time you hit one of these routes, okay? So we know how to open a file. All right, I'm going to do my kind of lines is equal to this, and then we'll say with open, and it'll be Prussian.csv. Then I want to do read only as F, and then we'll do lines equals f.readlines. Okay, so now I have this list, or this array of all of the different lines inside this file. Okay, now, one thing I want to note is that obviously the first line has all of this great header information, and the first column has all the great information about which year I'm dealing with. So we'll go ahead and use that to our advantage, okay? So first of all, let's just go ahead and get the headers, okay? So the headers we know is actually going to just be lines sub 0, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and just run a strip. The strip goes ahead and removes the carriage return from the line, okay? So I don't necessarily want to have, there's going to be like a line break character at the end of this, and I want to just get rid of that. So that's what the strip does for me, okay? And so now if I want to go ahead and get each of these values, all I have to do is split it by the comma, right? So I can do something like header vals equals headers dot split comma, okay? And so now header vals, right? So if I put in a comment here, header vals should now be something like this. It'd say year for the first item, right? And then it's going to say, GC C1 ... Okay, so I have now this list of my header values. And I can use this information to keep track of which column and which row, basically which column the information that I want. So in other words, if somebody asks the question, give me the GC, well, I know that that's the second item here in my value list. So then in all the other lines, it's going to be the second item, okay? All right, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, and I think what I'm going to create, if you look back here at the assignment, okay, in the hints, it says you might want to make separate data structures to make looking the information up easier. When you read in the files, it would be convenient to have something like by year. So in other words, creating this Python dictionary, okay, I'm going to create 2 different Python dictionaries, a by year and a by core, okay, where I can actually just look the information up, okay? So when I go ahead and I read in my file and I parse through it, that's what I'm going to create. Now, again, you don't have to do it that way. You could go through and, compute this information every single time if you wanted to. But I think this is just going to be a little bit easier for me. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create this nice by year empty dictionary for now, and a by core empty dictionary for now. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and fill this up, all right? So I think the first thing that we'll do is let's go ahead and initialize, let's go ahead and, we're going to go ahead and loop through the by core. Well, this is what we want to do for core, right? So we're going to want, let me just put in a comment here. So by core, we're going to want to have something like this, like GC, okay? And then we're going to want that to be another dictionary, right? Such that we have something like by core, GC, and then all these different years here, right? 1875 equals, and then this would be like the total number of deaths. So however many there were, if there were 1 or 0 or whatever, okay? So in other words, another way to think of this is that my by core dictionary should look something like this, right? It should be like 1875, 1, 1876, 0, whatever the values are. I'm not sure what they are. We're going to read that out of the data set, okay? So, so let's go ahead and write some code to create this data structure for us. So I think the first thing that we'll do is let's just go ahead and loop through my header values, right? So I can loop through my header values and set up this dictionary and just have all of these start out as empty, okay? Right, so I don't need this first item in here, so I'm going to start at element 1 and go through the end. Okay, so I'll say for I in, and I guess we'll do range. So if I use the range operator, I'm creating a range starting at 1 and then going through the length of header vals like this. Okay, I could have used the enumerate function if I wanted to do that, okay, but this is just kind of like an easy way to do it. And then what I'll do is I'll just say by core, and then I can just directly pass in header vals sub I like this, okay? So in other words, the first time through the loop, I'm going to get GC, and I'm going to put by core GC, and I'm just going to set this equal to an empty dictionary, okay? So that I have this nice set of empty dictionaries. So by the time I'm done with this, I'll have by core GC is an empty dictionary, by core C1 is an empty dictionary, etc. Okay? And so then, as I loop through each row in my file, okay, I can then fill in the year information that I want. Okay? So now let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to loop through, now again, I don't need, so I've got my lines here, right? That's all of the different lines in my file. But I don't need the first line of the file because, as we pointed out earlier, the first line of file is this headers, and I've already dealt with that. Okay, so so let's go ahead and just loop through again through starting at 1, and then we'll loop through the lines like this. Okay, and I guess we should probably. Yeah, we're going to need to strip off that new line. So let's do that. So we'll do lines I dot strip. Okay. So that, again, that gets rid of the line break at the end so that we don't have some kind of problem as we're parsing towards the end. Okay. And now let's go ahead and split this into our different values. So we'll say vals equals line dot split, comma. Okay. So in other words, now our vals variable is going to be set, like let's say if we were on this line right here, okay, vals sub 0 would be 1880, vals sub 1 would be this, vals sub 2 would be 3, etc. Okay, so now we've got the individual items. Okay, so now that we have these vals, we need to stick these into our data structures. Okay, well, so for the by year one, all right. Okay, how can we get the year? Well, we know that it's vals sub 0, right? Because the first item in here is going to be this, right? So that's a vals sub 0. Okay, so I can just directly put in vals sub 0 like this, and we'll go ahead and we'll initialize that to an empty dictionary. Because again, we want to, just like we did up here, right? And we're going to initially make them empty, and then we're going to go through and fill in both of these things, okay? So now what we need to do is let's loop through each of our vals and then stuff them into the appropriate place in our by year and by core data structures. Okay, so I could do like a for J in, and again, I'm starting at position 1 because I don't need, position 0 is just the year label. So really what I need is I need position 1 all the way to the end, right? So then I'll do length vals like this. Okay. And so now for my by year data structure, okay, well, I know that I'm dealing with val sub 0 already, okay? And then the next item, or the key of that next dictionary for year is going to be the core, okay? Well, which core am I in? Well, if I go back to my header values, okay, I can use header vals sub j, okay, to get the corresponding name of the core, right? And then all I need to do is just set this equal to vals sub j. All right. Now that's a little bit complicated. It's a little bit weird, okay? But if you spend a little bit of time thinking about it, you can see exactly what's going on here, right? So as I'm looping through these values, okay, as I'm going through them one at a time, let's say that I'm at like, so this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say that I'm at the 5th element here, right? Well, okay, well, I want to figure out which core the 5th element corresponds to, right? So for the 5th one, I can go up here and just in my header vals, I can say, all right, well, which header vals is the 5th one? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, the 5th one is C4, okay? And so that's what this header vals sub j stuff is. Oh, and it looks like I actually have a typo in here. Looks like I need another closing square bracket like that. Okay? And so that's how I figure out what my core value is. Okay, and then likewise, since I'm doing it by core, I can just do the exact reverse. Header vals sub j, and then vals 0, like this, okay? And then, again, we're going to set this equal to vals sub j. Now, I should probably also go ahead and convert these to integers, because right now they're coming in as strings. Okay, and we don't want that because we're going to need to do math on these later. Okay, all right, so now I think that pretty much sets up my data structure. So now I could, based on this code right here, I should be able to look up any value in this table just by passing in the name of the core and the year, right? So for example, if I said, all right, I want by year, and I want, 1880, well, let's see, how long does it go? Okay, yeah, there's 1880. So I did 1881, and then I did like C5, okay? That should return me, it should give me 1881, and then it should be whatever the value is here for C5, okay? So I guess that would be GC, C1, C2, C3, C, so it should be 0. All right, so that should all be in there now inside this data structure I just went through and created. All right, so now that I have that, actually doing the Flask part is going to be really easy, right? Because all I have to do for my year is, well, since I already know the year, all I have to do is just go ahead and look up the correct value, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just start off simple, and then I'll kind of add to this. But let me just go ahead and return by year, okay, and then year, like this, okay? All right, and then for these other ones, I guess for right now, I'll just put in pass, or actually I'll just return not implemented, and then we'll fix these. I'm doing this because I want to demonstrate just the one thing, kind of one thing at a time. All right. All right. So now that we've done this, let's go ahead and see if our year service works. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. I probably have some typos and stuff in here, so let's go ahead and see. So let me go ahead and activate my virtual environment. And then I'm going to do Flask run. Okay, so now it says it's running. So I'm going to pull up my browser here. I'm going to go to localhost 5000. All right. And now the only one that I've implemented so far is this by year. So let's go ahead and try a year. Okay. And I guess I should probably keep that Prussian file open so we can check and make sure that our numbers are right. So let's go ahead and start with 1875. So if I go year/1875, okay, hey, look. All right, we see that it returned C1000, so it returned a 1 for C14. It returned a 1 for C7 and a 1 for C8. So this actually looks like it's correct. Now, you'll notice that it's missing something, right? Because if we go back to the assignment says it also needs to include the total, okay? Well, so I'm going to have to actually go compute the total, all right? I'm going to have to actually loop through and compute this total, okay? So I guess probably what I need to do is I need to go ahead and create a loop in here, right? So I'll say, all right, we'll call this whatever, temp dict equals by year. Okay, and then we'll do for I in temp dict. Well, I guess before we do that, let's go ahead and we'll do a sum total equals 0. Okay, and for I in temp dict, we will do total equals total plus I, right? And I think that will give us what we want, okay? And so now what we can do is we can just go ahead and we're going to cheat a little bit here. Not really cheating, but we're just going to go ahead and add in another, we'll do it like this. We'll do by year, and then we'll just add in another dictionary entry here called total equals total. Like that. All right. And so now let's see if this works. Okay, so we go ahead and save that. Okay, we see that it's reloading, restarting. I don't know, maybe it finished. Let's see. So if I reload this, okay, I'm getting some kind of an error, so it looks like I've got a problem. Okay, yeah, so it's trying to convert. I've got a type conversion problem here. So total is starting out as an integer, and I'm trying to. So looks like what I need to do is I need to go ahead and do an int here. Okay, and that will probably help out. No, yeah, this isn't right because so temp dict is going to be, the key is going to be the core name and the value is going to be the integer. So this is actually wrong. So really what this should be is this should be total plus temp dict sub I, like that. That's what it should be. Okay. All right, let's try that. All right, restarting. Okay, if I refresh this, all right. And now you see that I still have all those same values that I had before, but now I've got the total computed as 3, okay? And so I should be able to put in any of the years in here. If I put in 1876, okay? We see that the total is 5. GC had 2. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our Prussian data set and see if that looks right. Okay. Yep, GC was 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, so it looks like what we've done is correct. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and say that our by our year one is done, okay? So now for the core one, we essentially need to do the same thing, okay? But the difference is now we're, instead of using this by year data structure, we'll use the by core one that we set up, okay? So let's go ahead and we'll just do kind of the same thing. By core, okay, total equals 0 for I in tempdict. Total equals total plus tempdict sub I. And then by core, total equals total, return by core. Okay, so that one will probably work now. All right, let's go ahead and see. Looks like it restarted. All right, so now this time what we'll do is instead of year, we're gonna go ahead and put in core, and then we'll put in like GC. Okay, and sure enough, we see in 1875 there were none, in 1867 or 1876 there were 2, so on and so forth, and then we see our total there is 16. Okay, so presumably that would mean that all of these numbers here in this column add up to 16. And it looks like that's probably true. Let's see, 1876 is 2, 1877 is 2. Yeah, so it looks like we parsed that correctly. All right, so that one is done. All right, so now let's go ahead and go to this last one for the specific one. All right, so for the specific one, this one is probably the easiest out of all of them because all we have to do is, I mean, we can use either data structure that we want to, right? We can either use the year or the core, all right? So let's just go ahead and comment this out. So we will return, I'll just go ahead and do the by year, and then we'll do year and core, okay? So let's see how that one works. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and change our URL here to specific, and we'll do, what order do we have to stick them in? So we've got to do the year first. So we'll do 1875, and we'll do GC. And, oh no, we got a internal server error. Okay. It says the view function did not return a valid response. A return type must be a string, a dictionary. Okay, but it was an int. So we tried to return an int. So really, I think if we look, the assignment says it's actually supposed to return a dictionary. So let's go ahead and just, instead of returning it like this, we will return a dictionary with total, colon, and then that. All right, let's see if that solves the problem. Okay, so go back here, refresh this. Okay, and hey, look. So in 1875 GC, the total was 0. All right, and that's correct. 0. Let's find one where we actually have a value here. So like, here's a 4, okay? So this is 1880, and it looks like C11. So let's try 1880 and C11. It should give us the number 4. So 1880, C11. Yep, total 4. Okay. So now I think our, let me see, is there anything else we're supposed to do in here? Okay, so as far as the Flask portion goes, it looks like we're pretty much done. Now, we could also add in some error checking if we want to. You know, like, for example, if I were to enter in years or core names that aren't in the data set, it's going to give me like a terrible error. Like if instead of C11 I typed in this, I'm going to get an error. So we could put in some error checking, but I don't think that was specified in the assignment. So yeah, so I think we're basically done at this point with the Flask portion, okay? So then the next portion is we're going to create a tkinter app to actually to consume this service and use it, okay? And so that'll be in the next video.